in those states that say, phew, we don't have to kick our industry out and raise electricity prices again. Common sense is returning to Washington, D.C. And for that, I'm incredibly thankful to be here in the United States government, to work for President Trump, who will stand up for what's right, bring common sense back, and reinvigorate an industry without which we would not have the America we have today. And we're going to reindustrialize America, win in the next generation of technologies, and we're going to do it in critical part because of a growing and thriving coal industry. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Burgum. Thank you, Lee Zeldin.
Good. And Lee Zeldin, how about saying a few words?
For so many Americans, clean, beautiful coal is their source of heat, of energy, of warmth, of a job, an economy, a community, a family. And for too long, you saw Democrats who were telling these coal miners that they should just learn a code. And what we saw during the Biden administration at the EPA, for example, was regulation after regulation after regulation trying to strangulate out of existence coal, to destroy it. Enter President Trump. Declares a national energy emergency, creates a National Energy Dominance Council, and he told us at the EPA at Trump speed to be getting rid of these regulations as quickly as possible on behalf of those Americans who want to just stay warm, who want to live the American dream, who want to have affordable access to energy. The Democrats were running for power to sit at this desk and to leverage that power to destroy these communities. Enter President Trump. He has saved clean, beautiful coal, and it's been an honor to be part of it.
Thank you, Lee. Great job, too. Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon. Thank you.
Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. Thank you to the secretaries who have breathed life into an economy in Wyoming that has been there for a long time. Wyoming produces the cleanest, most beautiful coal, low sulfur coal.
You don't mind if I push them, right?
And it's fun because we have a chance to educate our kids. Now, let me just talk a little bit about the other side of this. When a kid grows up in Wyoming, their education's paid for in large part by the coal severance taxes, by the royalties that come from mining that coal that was shut down by the Democrats. When they have a chance to get a job, they can go look to the coal mine. And it's not just digging coal the way we used to, it's high-tech jobs. You know, at this point, we don't mine coal the way we used to at all. It is very, very technologically proficient. And what's more important, it's environmentally sound. I would invite you to come and look at the reclamation that's happened in the Powder River Basin, and we can demonstrate that it's environmentally sound, that actually wildlife populations thrive and do better. Today, Mr. President, I really want to talk to you a little bit about our recent trip to Japan and to Taiwan. Both countries that were going to forswear coal. And now they realize that they need that reliable, dispatchable, secure source of energy. But they can't get it as clean as they can from the Powder River Basin. So to be able to open that Oakland port is absolutely essential for the lifeblood of our state and for our coal mines. It is something that we tried to do in your first administration, and we almost got there. We actually were prepared to go through that, I guess, belt that we have on the West Coast with California, Oregon, and Washington, and finally enforce the Commerce Clause to allow states like New Mexico, Wyoming, Utah to have access to that Asian market. And let me just tell you one last thing about that. It's not just about clean, beautiful coal. We have companies like Peabody that are now saying, we believe we can get rare earth minerals and critical minerals from what we're doing. So we are advancing technology, advancing the opportunities and the security of the state, all because of your vision, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark, very much. Would you like to say something on behalf of West Virginia?
I would like to say, Mr. President, all West Virginians are so deeply grateful to you for your focus on protecting their energy jobs. The coal miners know the incredible importance of why we're here today, and to talk about the potential for new coal-fired power plants, that excites them. And I think West Virginians are really inspired because we're America's energy state. When you think about what's happening on the global scene, where that international fight with China for information technology supremacy, we believe that your policies are going to allow America to compete and win, and West Virginia is going to supply the coal, the gas, the nuclear to help make that happen. So I'm very excited by everything you're doing, even some of the relatively small things when you come in and you sign agreements with your administration, putting hundreds of people back to work. It's all making a big difference for West Virginia. So thank you, Mr. President.
Like, as an example, the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. It bothered me for many years. We have 92% of the frontage, and we made that little change. And Mexico was thrilled. They were thrilled about it. But that was a good one, right? You were telling me before that was a good one. It's about the United States now for a little while, if it's okay. Would you have any questions, please?
Yes, President Trump, this was just crossing as we were heading in here. President Zelensky wrote a letter to President Putin. He wants the two of them to meet to hash out the end of the war in Ukraine because he thinks you are too busy with the war in Iran. Is he right?
Well, I don't know. I'm glad that they're maybe talking about meeting. I think we had a lot to do with it. I know exactly what you're doing. But I think it would be great if they met. They should get it done.
And there's been a lot of talk lately about the Treasury putting your face on a $250 bill. Have you seen a mock-up of the Trump $250 bill? And if that winds up being currency, would you ever be able to tip anyone anything but that?
Well, I think I'd probably leave it for everybody. I have actually seen something just about 2 days ago. I know it's been pushed by a lot of our supporters, and I'm honored that they're doing it, but we'll see how that all works out. But I have heard about it, and there is a group of people, they really like the job we're doing, you know, so that's a great honor. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you announced just a few days ago that you're naming Bill Pulte as the acting director of national intelligence. There's been a little bit of a pushback from some Senate Republicans. Why do you think, Mr. President, he's the best person for the job?
Well, he's very smart. He's a person who's got high integrity. He's done a phenomenal job at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. You probably have $1 trillion in value there. When he took over, it was much less. And I guess I'm responsible for that too, because everybody wanted me to sell it in my first term for 10% of what it's worth right now. If I would have sold it, we would have lost $900 billion. We would have lost, think of it, it's probably worth $1 trillion. And I was offered, people want me to sell it at $100 billion, a very small percentage of what it's worth now. So, and he built it up a lot, did a great job. And it's an acting position, it's not a permanent. He's not going to be permanent because, I don't think he'd want to be permanent. But he's a very smart guy, and he may find out some things about the rigged elections, et cetera, et cetera. I think he'd like to do it. I think he wants to do it very much. Got a lot of energy. But he'll be very good. Again, it's not a permanent position. We're interviewing people right now, but it's somebody just to take it over for a little while.
Does he have the necessary, in your view, Mr. President, the necessary national security experience to take on that position?
Well, I do, and I think he does, actually, because he's smart. Because a lot of national security, I wasn't greatly experienced in national security, and I think I've done a really great job with it. A lot of people would say that. I've ended 8 wars, and soon to be a 9th. I hope that works out too. Frankly, probably, and there's another one also. It could be 10. No president. I don't think a president's ended 1 war having to do with outside of this country. So we've done a good job. I would say that Bill is a guy that will be able to figure it out very quickly. Again, it's short term, but he may be very effective for a short period of time.
Mr. President, so will there be a proportional share increase of electricity production as a percentage of our nation's electricity output? And my follow-up is, I took that historic trip with Secretary Wright of the small modular nuclear reactor on the West Coast early this year. Are we making more progress? Because I know how critical gas and coal is for the secure grid.
Well, the answer is we are, but Chris, you want to answer that?
Yes, our electricity grid essentially runs on gas, coal, and nuclear. Those are the 3 key sources. They're the backbone of the American electricity grid. we're in favor of seeing all three of them grow. You will see all three of them grow during this administration. And in fact, later today, before the sun goes down, you'll see a big announcement in the nuclear space related to the trip you came on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, President Putin said today that he was willing to make compromises that you requested to end the war with Ukraine if Ukraine was willing to make similar compromises.
Yeah.
What were the compromises that you asked?
Well, I'd rather not say, because Peter asked me. I think it was meant as a little wise guy question, but I'm not sure. But I'm very responsible when that happens. It's going to happen. They're going to both make compromises. I suggested those compromises. And, you know, we've had a lot to do with it. We'd love to see they're two very good people. They're two very, incredible countries, beautiful countries. They've got to stop. Last month they had 25,000 people killed. Soldiers, mostly soldiers. Some people, but mostly soldiers. And it's been averaging probably almost 25,000 people every month of soldiers killed. And I've been very strong on the fact that they've got to get that over with. So, but they do. I want them each to make certain compromises. I think they're going to do that. Yeah, Daniel?
Mr. President, thank you. You, through your actions, have saved and supported more than 100 coal plants in your second term. When you hear something like that and you try to create an environment where they're not just surviving, they're thriving, what does that do to the reliability of our energy grid, but to the economies as well of states like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Wyoming? How does it bolster those economies?
Well, we were destroying our grid because we were relying on wind and other things that don't have the power, they don't have the strength, they're very expensive. Wind is the most expensive form of energy. It sounds good. Wind, beautiful wind, but it's very intermittent. But those windmills cost a fortune. They break, they kill the birds, they're bad for the environment. Nobody wants to be near them. The houses, I don't know how they got popular. They're not popular with the people. They're popular with investors because they get subsidy. But we've pretty much cut that subsidy out, I think, Doug, right?
Absolutely. In the working families tax cut bill, it all expires, and since the subsidies have gone away, there's virtually no one, particularly offshore, no one is trying to build one of those projects in America. Turns out they weren't trying to generate electricity; they're just trying to generate tax credits. That's right.
You're supposed to be making money with energy, and here wind, it needs subsidy. Energy shouldn't need subsidy. We have so many different forms of energy, but I've talked about it for years. Wind is the most expensive. It's the worst. It causes tremendous problems, and it does. It kills millions and millions of birds a year. Nobody mentions that. You'd think if that were anything else, everybody would be sued. If you kill a bald eagle, they put you in jail for like 4 years or something. And yet windmills knock them out of the air all the time. Nothing happens. It's disgraceful. So we're into energy that really works and works powerfully. Yes, go ahead.
And we're waiting outside to come into the Oval Office. Everyone's looking at the UFC structure, the claw. Are you happy with how that's coming along, and what are your expectations?
We put it up in 5 days. It's incredible. And I told yesterday the story of the Eiffel Tower, and it was 1889. It was put up. It was going to be brought down right after the World's Fair ended. It was up for a short while, and they said, "Well, let's leave it a little bit longer." Then they said, "Let's leave it a little longer." It never came down. That was 1889, the World's Fair in Paris. So I jokingly said, let me tell you a story about the Eiffel Tower. Now it'll come down after the fight. There were actually some people who said he wants to leave it up. Yes, please.
Mr. President, about the Columbus statue, Columbus Fountain at Union Station, it looks amazing.
Thank you.
And what does that mean for the relations between Italy and the United
Well, it
States?
means Italian people love Trump. And because, that was controversial. People want to rip it down. You see how beautiful it is. And we didn't only not rip it down, but Doug and his group and all of us together, we beautified it. I didn't know that marble was going to be so beautiful once we cleaned it up. You wouldn't believe it. When you saw that thing was loaded for 50 years with filth and graffiti and everything else. It's amazing. It's amazing how good. They did a really great job.
On the Strait of Hormuz, Mr. President, do you still want European allies' help? We're discussing energy today. And
Well, we don't need the help.
What kind of help would you want? Do you have a
We're the most
timeline?
powerful military in the world. We gave them a chance to help, but they chose not to. NATO. We went to the NATO countries. We went to others too, in all fairness to NATO. And I wouldn't say I gave them a hard sell, but I said, hey, if you'd like to help, it'll be wonderful. And they all turned us down. And, it's going to be an expensive proposition for them because they shouldn't have done that. They should have helped. We don't need it. We have our own. We have much more than we need in terms of oil and energy generally. But European countries and other countries, they need it tremendous. Some of the European countries need it really big. And they should have said, we'd love to help. But
if you could choose, Mr. President, if you could choose, what would you ask them to do, sir? If you wanted.
Well, I would have asked them. I mean, there's not much. Look, we won. There's no Navy. There's no Air Force. We've wiped them out. We've wiped out their leadership and almost all of it. We've wiped out all their military leaders. They're down on the third. Now, maybe they're very good. I don't know. I can't tell you that. But certainly the first ones didn't do very good because they weren't. They were literally, after 3 days, almost the entire military was wiped out. They had to get new generals. And then after that, they had to get more new generals. And we knocked out their anti-aircraft, their Air Force, just about everything you can knock out. So, and then you'd read in the fake news that they're doing really well in the war. I mean, it's unbelievable. We knocked out everything there is to knock out, and you'd pick up the fake news and they'd say how well they've done. They're doing brilliantly. They have no Air Force. They had we knew that, 159 ships. Andy, out of 159 ships, all 159 lie beautifully at the bottom of the ocean. We actually took pictures of them down there. And then you read the fake news. They say, well, their Navy is really great. You know what they have now? Little runabouts with a machine gun on the front. The ships don't even really deal with them. They're like a gnat, they get off. That's all they have. It's crazy. This country needs a fair press. And one thing I think that's done is expose how corrupt our media is. And I really do, while we're here, I hope the media looks at this election that's taking place in California where they think it'll take 7 or 8 days to count the votes. Can you believe this? I mean, they spend all that money on the machines, the big voting machines. They think it's going to be 7 or 8 days before we know who won the election. But the numbers are looking strange because without any vote counting, the numbers dropped very precipitously for 2 Republicans that are doing well, that had been doing well. And I hope you're all watching it because I'm watching it very closely.
Mr. President, are you worried that China is funding an anti-data center movement here in the
No,
US?
I'm not worried about it. We had a great meeting with China. And, they do things to us and we do things to them. I say it all the time. They say, are you worried about China tapping your phones? I said, well, they're worried about the same thing. No, we're very highly sophisticated. We've become very highly sophisticated. We had 4 years. I rebuilt the military. We had a military that was not good, and we rebuilt it. And I didn't know I'd use it quite as much, but we used it. Ukraine has been given a tremendous amount of without our military and our equipment, Ukraine wouldn't be alive to fight today. Just in terms of the question. We gave them hundreds of billions of dollars worth of equipment and the best equipment. We make the best equipment anywhere in the world, but they wouldn't have lasted 1 or 2 days. They wouldn't have been able to do it. Remember the anti-tank missiles, remember that, right? When the tanks got stuck in the mud, and then they went around and boom, 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 and those were given by yours truly. They said Obama gave sheets and Trump gave the anti-tank as one of the most devastating weapons. But you check that out. But we have the greatest military. We have the greatest military equipment anybody's ever seen before. Look at Venezuela. We went in there. It was over after about 48 minutes. And, they have a strong military, different kind of a military, but a lot of soldiers. And you look at Iran, where we essentially wiped out their military. Now, there's some missiles left, but very few compared to what they had.
And speaking of our military in Iran, I wanted to ask you about this report that you would only restart the conflict with Iran if they killed U.S. troops. Is that your red line for ending the ceasefire?
If they killed?
U.S. troops.
What does that mean?
that you would restart the war with Iran if they killed U.S. troops?
Well, it would be a good reason. I'll be honest with you. If they kill U.S. troops, I think I would do that very quickly. Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Mr. Ron, you've responded to the vote in the House yesterday on the War Powers Resolution. Also, we've seen Hezbollah reject the U.S. brokered peace in Lebanon. You said that the negotiations are in final stages, but Iran's saying they're stalled.
They didn't reject me. They didn't reject nothing. They're looking. I think Hezbollah, I will tell you, they called us and they said, how about stopping? And I think you're going to see things happen over there. That's been like a little bit of a different world, but it's interconnected with Iran. And it would be really nice if Lebanon could have some peace. Lebanon's been under attack for so many years and always like an underdog. And it would be really nice if it could end. And I spoke to Bibi Netanyahu about that. And I speak to them about it. And I actually spoke to Hezbollah about it. And I think progress is made. That's been going on for a long time. You know, when you look at that for years and years, 48 years, I say, well, let's get this settled. How long has it been going on? 48 years. I said, that's a long time. Not that easy, but go ahead.
As we get closer to the midterms, are you starting to factor in domestic reaction to this in your handling of this? Or are you
I just do what's right.
indefinitely?
No, I mean, look, it was like Venezuela. It was very unpopular. Then we won. And my numbers went through the roof. I have very high poll numbers. They went through the roof. It was very unpopular when I went to Venezuela. They said, oh, we don't want... Well, first of all, that one's relatively close. It's sort of a semi-neighbor, right? And the relationship with Venezuela is incredible. We've taken out millions and millions of barrels of oil out of Venezuela. It's very oil-prone. I guess, Chris, one of the most, right?
Yes.
And we've taken out... You're sort of leading it, but... You want to just tell them real fast about the relationship we have with Venezuela, Chris?
Yeah, things with Venezuela have gone very well. Venezuelan oil exports today are 3 times higher than they were right before we went in. So it has been a meaningful incremental supply of oil to the world. And one of the reasons we're solving a 47-year-old problem of Iran's race for nuclear weapons and oil prices in the U.S., we wish they were lower. But gasoline prices in the U.S. are, a little over $4. They're $10 in Europe. They're higher in Asia. They're very high in California. The bigger threat to energy prices in the United States is Democratic green energy policies. They have driven up energy prices far more than a conflict in Iran. And the conflict in Iran will come to an end. We hope the crazy green energy, drive up energy prices policy of the Democrats at federal and state levels, we hope that comes to an end too.
And remember this, if you want to call it a war or if you want to call it a military operation, you cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And everybody agrees to that, no matter, almost everybody. But wait a minute. Our gasoline prices are lower than they were with Biden without that. And he would have let them have, in fact, he inspired them to have, frankly, a nuclear weapon, him and Obama. Obama picked the wrong country, you know that. And the Obama deal, I terminated that, or they would have had a nuclear weapon. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. Our deal, if we make that deal, and it's going well, but who knows? If we make that deal, it's the exact opposite. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
It sounds like you're in it for as long as it takes.
I'm not going to let them have a nuclear weapon, no. With Obama, it was a road, you know that, it was a road to a nuclear weapon. That was a short-term agreement, and at the end of which they would have a nuclear weapon. So they would have had it 4 years ago. Then we attacked with this beautiful plane right here, the B-2 bomber. We attacked 10 months ago. We attacked their nuclear sites, and they were obliterated. It turned out that CNN was wrong. They said, well, maybe they weren't hit that hard. They were hit so hard, nobody knows if you can even get it out. But the only ones that have the capability of getting out is us in China. We're the only ones with that kind of equipment that's powerful enough to go down that deep into a mountain. But that mountain crushed it. That mountain literally collapsed on top of it. Those pilots did one hell of a job. And now the atomic energy, as you know, has backed us up on that. They think it's a very, very hard thing to get it. But we'll get it anyway. But we're the only one, and China. I believe China too, but we're the only 2 that have the capability.
President Biden is out promoting a new book this week. When you met with Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, right here in the Oval Office on November the 13th of 2024, could you detect any cognitive decline in President Biden at that time?
No, not really. I mean, he was the same guy I've been watching for a long time. I mean, you could go back 40 years. I watched him 40 years ago, 30 years ago. He was never the sharpest guy. You do know that, right? It wasn't like he was sharp as a tack. But, no, it was the same guy. They actually invited me here before the election, which was strange. You know, we went here before, but then I met also, as you know, we did the ritual. And, I mean, he was fine as far as I was concerned. I don't know, something happened to him during the debate. It could have been me. You know, I thought I had a very good debate. Nobody ever says that. They say that Biden did badly. What about me? Did I do well? You know, there's a reason he did badly. So the question is, did he do badly because he choked or because he didn't have it? But he didn't have a good, I would say this, he did not have a good night.
But during that time period, you met with him for about 2 hours. You didn't feel he was
No, he spoke softly, very softly. And as we started to speak, you know, I mentioned this to people. We spoke very, very softly, very low, very low. And as we talked, we got along really well. And I thought he was fine. When I say fine, I mean, was he like talking to Doug Burgum? Was he like talking to Chris? Was he like talking to any of these monsters up here, all these tremendous politicians and environmental geniuses? Was he like talking to Andy Barr? No. He was fine.
I have a question about Hunter Biden. He's on social media now, and he has suggested, maybe joking, I don't know, that he could run for president in 2028. How would he do, Hunter Biden, in a 2028 Democratic primary?
Well, you would think that, you know, past has something to do with winning an election, and I would say his past is not the greatest. Where's Hunter? Remember my Where's Hunter? It became the #1 shirt anywhere in the world for about 3 weeks. I'm not going to say bad. I'm sure, you know, hey, if the guy from Maine can do well, I guess Hunter could do well too, because the guy from Maine is a basket case. And I would say worse than him is the one from Texas. That looks like Alfred E. Newman. I would say that if he can do well, maybe Hunter can do well. I'm not sure. It would be pretty close as far as I'm concerned.
And I've got a question about the nuclear dust. So the bombers go in, they entomb a lot of this enriched uranium.
Yeah.
At this point, do you need a deal with Iran to go get it? Or have you thought about just a covert, daring, send in the SEALs, send in the Rangers?
But I didn't want to be Jimmy Carter, you know. I didn't feel like being Jimmy Carter.
So that's off the
We
table.
did. Well, we thought about it right at the very beginning, before you saw, before we did what we did, before we destroyed their entire military. We thought about it, and I didn't want to be in a position where you had, you know, to get there. It's not like Venezuela. Like you go in, you're there for a matter of minutes, and you're out, and everybody's waving goodbye as you take off, and you brought the cargo back. This is different. You'd have to be there for 2 weeks. You'd need massive equipment. You'd have to airlift the equipment in. You know, you're in a war zone. And there was a time at the very beginning when we thought about doing that, because they would have not been watching, but they would have found out. I mean, during a period of a week to 2 weeks, you know, you would have had a major construction operation, because that plane, and more importantly, those people that operate those planes, including the mechanics, you know, they flew for 37 hours round trip. Think of that. And the tankers that refilled them 4 times, and what an operation it was. Amazing. And but we would have been, Peter, we would have been there for a period of from a week to 2 weeks. We would have gotten it. But I said, I don't like the idea of that. All of a sudden, they, you know, pinpoint. They still had missiles left. That means they would pinpoint you and just keep lobbing them in until one gets through, and people would have gotten killed. So I didn't like it. We could get it right now. I don't think they could stop us if we wanted, but there's no reason to. It's entombed. You use a good word. It's entombed. We also have cameras on it through Space Force. We have very powerful cameras. Every door, there's a door, you know where the doors go? They go to bad places. But every single place on those mountains is basically three, because we also hit it with tomahawks after. You know, after that we hit it with tomahawks. Every inch of that land has cameras on it. We have about 9 of them, and they're on, and we cover it. So if anybody even got near it, we would know what we had to do.
And we've heard you want to meet with the new Ayatollah, the new supreme leader.
I don't want to meet, but if I did meet, I'd be honored to meet him. I'd like to see if we make a deal. But if we make a deal, it's possible that I would meet him. I'd be okay with
Would
it.
that happen here in the U.S., White House?
Oh, I don't know, Peter. I haven't really heard too much about it. I didn't suggest it, but some people have suggested it. If it happened, it would be happen. I'd be respectful.
Do you think because Epic Fury killed his dad and his wife and his kid that he's got hard feelings and wouldn't want to meet?
Well, I would say I'm not his favorite person. But with that being said, he's probably I don't know. He's probably a professional. In some circles, he has a very good reputation, actually. You know, sometimes some people say bad, but a lot of people say bad about me. It's totally false, of course.
Mr.
On jobs, tomorrow the jobs report will be released. While the unemployment rate has been steady at 4.3%, the black unemployment rate has been 7.3%. When you ran for president, you courted black voters and talked about what you described as black jobs. How do you describe why this disparity is happening? What can you do to close that?
Well, we're doing very well with the black jobs, African American jobs. I saw some numbers that we're doing really well. But where we're really going to do well is when all these plants are open. You know, we're building many car plants. We're bringing cars back from Germany. We lost the car industry years ago. 54% of the industry went to Germany, Japan, Canada, Mexico. It's all coming back. It's amazing. And where your black worker is really going to do well is when those factories open. So I think they're going to be great. We've been doing very well. It's been a big focus for me. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. On today's announcement, how do you ensure that estimated cost savings are passed on to the consumers and not held by the company? And then on Iran, what specific progress has been made today in talks with them, and where are the sticking points still?
So we're really lowering costs. You know, when I came into this job, we had the highest inflation in the history of our country. 48 years, they say, but I think the history of our country, whether it's 48 years or more. But we had tremendous inflation with Biden, during the Biden. They had one of the highest ever. And I inherited that. The costs were very, very high. And at my first news conference, Peter and others were screaming at me about eggs. Remember, Peter? Eggs. What about eggs? Maybe it wasn't you. But I wanted to inject Peter into it. But he was screaming to me about eggs. And I said, what? Tell me about eggs. This is 2 days in. They said eggs had quadrupled. I said, well, they didn't quadruple under me. And they didn't want me to order eggs for the Easter egg hunt that was going to take place in a few months, right? And I said, nope, we're not going to. They wanted me to order plastic eggs. And I said, nope. And we got eggs down to lower than what it was long prior to when I took over. And eggs today are about 15% lower. What we had is a bunch of con artists, the Democrats. And what they did is they said, they left. They gave the highest prices that we've ever had for all products, groceries, everything. And they started saying affordability. They'd say, this is about affordability. It's a con job. I inherited their high prices. We brought those prices way down. And when and if you go back 3 months ago, if you go back before the war started, think of it, 3 months. So with Vietnam, we were there for 19 years. With Iraq, it was about 9 years. With another one, it was about 12 years. And with another one, we had all these wars that lasted for 9, 10, 12, 19 years for Vietnam. Think of it. And they said, you're in there for 3 months. This is a terrible thing. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers have been killed in these other wars. We lost not one soldier in Venezuela. We didn't lose one soldier. And we lost a total of 13, which is 13 too many. But when you look at hundreds of thousands of soldiers were killed in these various wars, they lasted many, many years. We're in there for a few months, and what we've done is amazing. They won't have a nuclear weapon. And we did, it was tough because we just got, Doug and everybody came in to see me, we just got the best numbers. Well, today, again, the New York Stock Exchange and every other exchange just hit a new all-time high. That's 73 days out of my short term. We've hit brand new highs. Every 401k is setting records. A 401k, a lot of people have. You probably all have 401ks. Look at your 401k. You're happy about your 401k? You know, the nice reporters are smiling at me, and the stupid reporters are like that. But their 401ks are setting records. They should be happy. They shouldn't be angry. They should be very happy. But 401ks are setting records. They've never had anything like it. So, you know, we've done a good job. As far as Iran's concerned, you're going to find out what the deal is. But the main parts of the deal is they can't have a nuclear weapon. The Strait will open immediately. You know, it's going to open immediately. And we've largely swept for mines. We have the most sophisticated mines. They're underwater minesweepers. I actually said to somebody, one of the generals, why underwater? He said, because usually it's hostile. You know, when you're looking for mines, typically it's not in a good neighborhood, right? So underwater made a lot of sense when it didn't take long to figure that one out. So I think we're doing very well, but we're going to see. If we're going to win one way or the other. We're going to win on paper, or we're going to win military. One way or the other. It's going to be militarily or on paper.
Mr. President, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. How critical is energy dominance, whether it be coal, whether it be LNG, whether it be oil, to national security?
Without it, you can't win. As an example, AI is a big deal. Whether we like it, not like it, it's going to be amazing in many ways. It's going to be, I think, for medical, it will be amazing. But without massive amounts of energy, you can't even play the game. And we're leading China by a lot in AI. I was talking to President Xi about it. But if we didn't do, Lee Zeldin's done so great because, number one, fast approvals from professionals. You know, you'd have the best firms in the world submitting papers to them. And we didn't keep them waiting for 10 years and then vote against them after 10 years. That way, guys would file with the environmental for a plant of some kind. After 15 years, they would be rejected. It was terrible. Now we have great professionals there, and we only accept plans from great professionals, but we give them fast turnaround, and it's been really amazing. I think the biggest thing we've done, Lee, is we let these geniuses with all this money build their own electric plant. We don't take it from our grid. We let them build their own plant. They become a utility. So they're building a plant, and at the same time, they're building electricity. Because if we didn't do that, you couldn't have anything. You couldn't have, and we're letting that happen, too, with car plants and other plants. If they want to build their own electric. But with the AI, you know, you hear so much about it. But one of the biggest things, they build their own. And then excess energy that they create will go back into the grid. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, on Cuba, Mr. President.
Just let him have one.
Mr. President, Secretary Rubio was in Delhi last week. He delivered a letter from you to Prime Minister Modi. And so you also addressed people of India to your favorite ambassador, Sergio Gore.
Right.
Yeah. Both of them have said the trade deal is around the corner. Where do you stand on the trade deal?
Well, we have it. And, you know, look, India for years has, and I don't blame them, I blame us because we had stupid people here. India for years really took advantage of the United States. You know that. Are you from India by any chance? Huh? I thought you were from Germany. I'm only kidding. You're central casting, okay? And that's a very good thing. India for years took advantage of this country. They charged us tremendous tariffs, and they paid nothing. They wouldn't let Harley, as an example, in the past, they wouldn't let Harley Davidson sell its motor. They would charge 200% tariff. So Harley Davidson was precluded. They ended up going to India and building their own plants, which is unfortunate that that happened, but it happens. That was before me. But they charged tremendous amounts of tariffs to our company, and we didn't charge them anything. You know, they sold motorbikes here too. You know what we charged them? Nothing. And now it's the exact reverse. And we're making a lot of money with India. But we'll get to a deal, because I like your Prime Minister a lot. He's a good friend of mine. Get along great, and we're going to make a deal. We have a very good relationship.
Mr. President, speaking of deals, Mr. President, on Cuba, are your sanctions on Cuba meant to accelerate its collapse?
No, we just want them to be a nicely run country that can feed its people. Look, it's a failed nation. Without Venezuela, Venezuela, because it has such wealth in the ground, mostly in the ground. But Venezuela took care of them for years, and they took care of Venezuela. They were like the bodyguards. When we went in and burst into their country, the Venezuelans were guarding Maduro and everybody else. It was mostly, the soldiers were, in that case, we had a lot of Cubans were guarding the Cubans were the guards, and they're good soldiers. But the country is starving, and it's got no energy, it's got no oil, it's got no money, it's got nothing. It's got a beautiful piece of land. You could have beautiful resorts. Doesn't have oil, but Venezuela was giving them the money to survive, and now, you know, the money is, I guess you could say, is coming to us and is going to Venezuela. Venezuela has been an amazing thing because we've paid for the cost of the attack many, many times over, and it's been a long time since you've
Do you
heard
think
of
that
it.
Cuba is close to collapsing, though, based on everything you just laid out? Do you think that Cuba is close to collapsing?
It sort of collapsed, and we're going to handle that as soon as we've finished. I like to do one thing at a time, and we'll take care of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And as soon as that's done on our way back, we'll just make a little brief stopover. We'll take care of it. We want to help them out. Look, we have a lot of people that voted for Trump. Whether they did or not, it didn't matter. But I had 95% of the Cubans voted for me. They're unbelievable people. They're energetic. They're entrepreneurial. You know, some of the richest people in Miami are Cuban. They're unbelievable. And I'm going to take good care of them. I'm going to let them go back to their land. They want to be back with family. You know, they have a lot of family over there. They've been treated very badly by Cuba. But we're going to treat Cuba well, and we're going to let our people go back and let them invest in Cuba if they'd like. So we have some very good plans for Cuba. I think, you know, we have to get rid of the regime was very tough, very nasty. The difference is now they don't have money coming in. They had a lot of money coming in from Venezuela. They don't have any money coming. They had oil coming in. They had money coming in. But we're going to take care of Cuba.
Mr. President, sir.
And they, you know what? They want us to. The people want us there so badly.
Mr. President, sir. Last night, huge night for the city of New York. The Knicks won Game 1 of the NBA Finals. There's been a lot of speculation. Have you decided whether or not you want to attend a game at Madison Square
Well,
Garden?
I've been a Knicks fan for a long time, and I'm also a Jim Dolan fan. He's a nice guy, okay? He's been a long time wanting to win, and he's a competitive guy, and he's got a team that's amazing. You know, I don't think they've lost a playoff game. Can you imagine that? And it was not looking good. I saw the beginning of the game, and it wasn't looking good. I missed the middle because I talked to generals all night long now. But I watched that end of the game, and they were dominant. Really amazing. And Wemby's a great player. He's going to be a great player, and he is already a great player. I say, how do you guard this guy? 7'5", and he's got a great shot, right? But they find a way to do it. They're really great. They're a great team. And I'm happy for Jim because Jim has really been fighting hard to, you know, produce such a team. So you never know. The answer is yes. He's invited me. I'm going. I'll be there. Say it.
Game 3, Game 4. Are you excited?
It could be Monday. Yeah, Monday.
Mr. President, speaking of New York,
Maybe I'll do both.
You mentioned your meeting with the automakers yesterday. Can you tell us a little bit about that, more about that in particular? Did you discuss trade, tariffs, USMCA?
We had a great meeting with the auto. I mean, most of them were here. They were really talking about the fix-your-own-car kind of a thing, right? But they're doing very well since I'm in office because I got rid of a lot of environmental restrictions. In fact, you might just tell them a little bit about that, Lee. We made it so much easier for them to build a car. They could build a less expensive car that's much better. And they were so choked up with environmental nonsense that in order to save 4 ounces of gasoline, you had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Lee, do you want to go into that?
President Trump, we sent to Congress 3 Biden EPA waivers to California that Congress passed. President Trump signed last year, getting rid of the electric vehicle mandate that a whole bunch of other states had signed on to. Just a couple of months ago, President Trump announced here at the White House the largest act of deregulation in the history of the United States, the repeal of the 2009 endangerment finding. All the greenhouse gas emission standards in light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles were following the law. And what that means for cost of living, just on that act alone, $2,400 more affordable per vehicle for Americans. The victories come out every single day. President Trump gave us very clear guidance. He wanted us to act at Trump speed to get this done as fast as possible. And what you see now all across America is billions upon billions of investments all across this country with new factories being built. They believe in America. They're investing in America with the American jobs to come up with it. And by the way, consumer choice, we got rid of that climate participation trophy for that annoying start-stop feature in cars to make your car die at every stop sign and red light. So yeah, the gifts, the receipts, the wins, they keep coming, and we're just getting started.
Do they ask you for any tariff changes on auto?
No, they didn't do that. Look, they're making so much money now because, I did something else that, I don't know, does it because we have no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, right? So that's really been big. That's turned out to be much bigger than anyone knew. If you look at the people, they're saving from $5,000 to $7,000, $8,000 even on average because of that. So it's been good. But I did something else that nobody talks about. If you buy a car and you borrow money, you're allowed to deduct the interest for income tax purposes. Never happened before. And deductions were always meant for rich people. They weren't meant for middle-class people or other people wanting to buy a car. So now you're allowed to get a deduction of your interest payment. That's a tremendous thing. I mean, but what's the key? Only if the car is made in America. Thank you very much, everybody. It's moving very well. Todd is very popular. He's doing great.
to plead guilty to is not that full case, right? It's going to be significantly less. We're told that he's going to plead guilty just to one count. But the big question here is, what does that actually mean for John Bolton? Does that mean he's going to have to see the inside of a jail cell? Well, we're told, according to a source, that it could be anywhere from 0 to 5 years in prison. Bolton expected to ask the judge for leniency, probation, but that's a significant downgrade. Had Bolton gone to trial and lost on all of those counts, he could have been facing decades in prison, Austin.
Yeah, Olivia, we're seeing a lot of searches about Bolton and President Trump's relationship. You said it yourself. He worked previously in President Trump's first administration. Why is the DOJ targeting Bolton here?
Well, if you listen to John Bolton, he says that he's a political enemy of the president and that he's one in just a long line of individuals who the president has essentially told his Department of Justice to go after because of their political differences, right? We've seen this in a number of cases. Think former FBI Director James Comey. Think New York Attorney General Letitia James, political allies, foes of the president, who then saw the Justice Department investigate them and indict them. Though I would note that this case is a little bit different, right? This case actually did have some support of career prosecutors within the Justice Department, not just political appointees, whereas when you look at the Comey case, the Letitia James case, we saw people actually quitting over those cases, Ashin.
Yeah, Olivia, John Bolton came out with a memoir not too long ago. What did he actually say about the president in that?
This was a scathing tell-all memoir, Austin, and that's sort of to put it lightly. He said the president essentially was ill-informed on issues, that the president saw conspiracy theories behind Iraq. He said the president was essentially not fit to serve. That's what he told ABC in an interview when speaking about this tell-all book. And remember, he was key when it came to national security issues. So he sort of revealed some details about various interactions the president had with foreign leaders. And he said essentially that throughout the administration, what he saw was a president motivated by his own reelection, not what was best for the country. In one instance, he spoke about the president, an interaction with Chinese President Xi, saying President Trump allegedly asked him to buy U.S. soybeans so that he could win the votes in farm states. Again, Trump has denied what Bolton said and said that he was highly disrespected and tweeted that he fired him at the time, but certainly no love lost between these two, Ashin.
Olivia, great reporting. Thanks so much for joining us, sis. Appreciate you. We just ran through our top searches, but what else is on your timeline? Let's get back to Maya. Maya, what else is trending today?
Ashan, wildlife officials in Georgia are urging residents to hunt and kill a large invasive lizard species that is spreading rapidly across the state. People are now searching what the Argentine black and white tegu looks like, trying to find out if it poses a danger to their families or pets. And finally, Outback Steakhouse is being sued for $1.5 million after a customer filed a slip and fall claim. The woman alleging she suffered serious injuries after slipping on a scoop of mashed potatoes at a Virginia restaurant. Outback is reportedly denying the claim, citing contributory negligence and arguing the condition would have been open and obvious to a careful customer.
Wow, super interesting. Let's hope we don't land on some slip mashed potatoes here on set, Maya. I appreciate you. Coming up, one search always leads to another. We've got a trending topic, but that's just the surface. The Trump administration scrapping plans for its anti-weaponization fund, but the fight for payouts is not over. We're peeling back the layers in The Spiral, up next.
Hey there, I'm Alex Brachet, and coming up in our next half hour, a Trump ally turned adversary, now expected to plead guilty. What we've learned about former National Security Advisor John Bolton and his diaries. Plus, a dry stadium? A strike is looming in LA just days before the World Cup is set to kick off, and it could impact having a drink at the game. And two Texas powerhouses, one national title. ESPN takes us to the ball game for the Women's College World Series right after Surged.
July 4th, Disney celebrates America 250.
You want to know what I've been doing for the last 4 years? I was in a cult, man.
Who am I? Nature Boy.
Nature Boy. Nature Boy.
You know this is not how life's supposed to be. Where Nature Boy is, that's where I'll find my truth.
I am your Messiah. Bow to me. What in the world is going on here?
Something was screaming at me no, but I ignored it. There was brainwashing, mind manipulation. He was king, he was God.
SWAT team. Don't shoot God.
He had to be destroyed.
Nothing dies in nature.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
Hey guys, I got a story I need to tell you about my life. Me and my little sister have been refusing to go to visits with my father, and now I'm having to be barricaded in my room to stay safe.
That is the start of the craziest journey of our life.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
Welcome back to Search. Today's top searches are only part of the story. A simple scroll can sometimes take you down a deep rabbit hole. It's time now for The Spiral. All right, you guys can't stop asking questions about the battle over President Trump's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. We're following your clicks and curiosity, and it looks like you guys also want to know why January 6 defendants are still seeking payments despite the DOJ scrapping plans for the fund, and what that might mean for the efforts to block rioters from receiving payouts. So let's break it down. We've got our Peter Haralambous up first, then we've got our former Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn. Fellas, thank y'all so much for joining us. Let's start with Peter Haralambous. He was reporting on January 6 rioters still eyeing payouts through potential lawsuits. Peter, the Justice Department has paused and scrapped this anti-weaponization fund, but now we have a lawyer representing Jan 6 rioters saying they should be reimbursed. What's that all about?
Yeah. Ashin, it seems like this plan to pay January 6ers is coming back from the dead, despite what we heard from the acting attorney general earlier this week, where he said this plan to create this anti-weaponization fund was dead. This really comes back to a law called the Federal Torts Claims Act that allows basically anyone who alleges they were harmed by the federal government to file a claim and then eventually file a lawsuit demanding damages. In this case, we understand that hundreds of people who were charged in connection with January 6th are eyeing that legal mechanism to get payouts. I spoke with one Florida attorney who represents hundreds of J6ers. He told me he plans on filing about 400 of these claims.
Wow, yeah, that attorney you spoke to, how much in damages are they seeking for their clients?
Yeah, I took a look at one of his recent lawsuits for 9 defendants, and he was requesting $1 million per person at least in damages. What's interesting also about that number is it's actually more than what that lawyer estimated his clients would have gotten had they gone through this weaponization fund. It honestly $200,000 more, even though it's a kind of a lengthier process and will require them negotiate through the federal government. And of course, they're not guaranteed any money, but they're still eyeing for it and actually are optimistic about their chances.
Yeah, Peter, feels like a lot of whiplash here. Why did the Justice Department actually scrap the anti-weaponization fund, and could we see it reintroduced again?
Yeah, the Trump administration pulled back this idea after a bipartisan uproar, the likes of which we really haven't seen in the second Trump administration. We were seeing Republican senators saying that they wouldn't vote in favor of paying for immigration enforcement, holding up other legislation that ultimately forced the Trump administration to pull back these plans. That being said, there are 2 important things to note. First, the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, has refused to actually put that into writing. He says he's not going to confirm in writing that the plan is not going to happen, which of course is leading to some suspicions. And on top of that, the actual plans for this weaponization fund didn't have anything to do with Congress. They were all confined within the executive branch, basically led by the Attorney General. So there's always this possibility that, without Congress getting involved, the Trump administration might attempt to bring this back in some form or way in the future.
Yeah, Peter, you mentioned that bipartisan uproar and backlash. Is President Trump saying anything in response to it?
It's kind of remarkable, actually. Trump was asked about this in the Oval Office yesterday. He said he didn't know about the status of the fund, but he said he believes those January 6 defendants that he pardoned en masse should actually receive payouts because they've been wronged by the Biden administration, he said, saying the idea for the fund was a beautiful thing.
Peter, fantastic reporting, man. Thank you so much. Let's now bring in Harry Dunn, a former Capitol Police officer who helped defend the nation's Capitol the day it was stormed by rioters. He's behind a lawsuit suing to block rioters from receiving payments through Trump's anti-weaponization fund. Harry, we now have rioters trying to carve a path for themselves to still get damages despite this anti-weaponization fund being revoked. What's your reaction to that?
It's right on cue. It's exactly what I expected from them to do. But also, let's be clear, going back to the last segment that you had there, we don't fully trust that the acting Attorney General is scrapping these plans, especially like you said, since he couldn't commit to put this in writing. We want a permanent stop to this, which is why we're going to continue with our lawsuit, despite what the acting Attorney General says.
Yeah, Harry, you were on the ground defending the nation's Capitol on January 6th. Both police officers and rioters were injured. There were even some reported deaths. What's your message to rioters who now want to be paid for this?
Well, it's been 5.5 years of the same message. I've been fighting for accountability for the people responsible for it. And accountability definitely doesn't look like them getting payments. I mean, they already got their get out of jail free card, like literally got their get out of jail free card when Donald Trump pardoned them. But also now, it also sends them the message. Donald Trump is sending a message to them, as I refer to it as putting a mob on retainer, because I don't believe that Donald Trump will leave office quietly in January of 2029. Why? Because he hasn't shown a track record of leaving office quietly in the past. And we all saw what happened on January 6th. But those people, I think this emboldens them. It emboldens them and it incentivizes them, because saying, hey, not only will we not get in trouble for our actions, what we do in the name of the president, but we'll also get rewarded for it.
Yeah, Harry, we mentioned you're a part of a lawsuit to block payments to rioters under the now paused anti-weaponization fund. You said that there was some sort of technicality about it, getting it in writing. Where does this actually leave things with a legal fight right now?
Well, so we're still pursuing with our lawsuit. And as far as legal steps, the judge has been assigned. We wait for the defendants, who the defendants in this case are Donald Trump and Todd Blanche, to respond. And then we'll just go from there. But we are not letting up on it. because, like I said, we believe that we have the best remedy for stopping this. Like any law that's passed by Congress needs to be obviously passed by the House and the Senate, and Donald Trump will have to sign it. Imagine Donald Trump signing legislation telling him that he can't do something that he wants to do. We don't see it happening. So that's why we're intervening in the courts, trying to get this fund from ever seeing the light of day.
Yeah, Harry, take me back to that day. How did it actually change you? We're seeing some people online say that the officers that were protecting the Capitol on that day are the ones that should be getting paid.
Yeah, and you know what's significant about that? We're not even asking for money. Like ever since I came out on January 7th, 2021, I've just been seeking accountability. These people are demanding money. They're asking for money. You know what? I'm running for Congress in Maryland's 5th Congressional District. I'm asking for people's votes. Like I am trying to see accountability all the way through, and we haven't seen it. So that's what I've turned my attention to, is to fight for the people. Like you said, the people that are saying that we deserve the money. Listen, all the praise and the credit should go to the officers and my coworkers that day. They are American heroes. They are the patriots. They are the one who stood up in the face of death. Because like you said, January 7th, Brian Sicknick died. 5 other officers lost their life via suicide in the aftermath of January 6th. So for this administration or anybody else to suggest that anybody else is the good guy or the hero of that day, give me a break. It's a total slap in the face.
Harry Dunn, thank you so much. Still ahead, it might be at the top of your feed, but what's the vibe? We've got your top pop culture and entertainment searches with Roxy Diaz, including NFL star Russell Wilson with a major announcement about his 14-season career. Vibe Check is next.
Tonight, President Trump taking aim at Republicans pushing back against the war in Iran and tracking the multi-day severe storm risk, possible flash flooding, and soaring temperatures coming to the Northeast. World News Tonight with David Muir is the most watched newscast in America.
Decker Investigations.
I have a job for you.
All episodes of R.J. Decker are now streaming on Hulu.
Como se dice possible homicide?
It's entertainingly twisty.
Where would we be without Laurent P.I.?
Get hooked on this must-watch compelling hit.
That's straight gold, son.
It's being called one of the best new shows this year.
Repeat after me, okay? Everything is gonna be...
Try not to die tonight.
I will do my best.
R.J. Decker. All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
The war with Iran, the midterm elections, the extraordinary breaking news of the week. Sunday mornings, ABC's This Week, with the stakes so high. This is Sunday morning's trusted news source. This Week, Sundays on ABC and stream on Disney Plus and Hulu.
You know what time it is. It's time now for our Vibe Check, a look at what's buzzing in entertainment and pop culture. My sis Roxy Diaz joins me now for more on what's trending on your feeds. Roxy, what you got for me on this beautiful Thursday?
A little bit of sports at the top for you, okay? Russell Wilson is hanging up his cleats. The NFL star and Sierra's hubby officially announced his retirement. The Super Bowl champ and the Seattle icon, he's created many must-see football moments at his peak, and now he's heading to CBS Sports as an analyst and is expected to join the NFL Today crew. So he's still in the game, just on the other side of the camera, but honestly, it's a natural transition for such an amazing talent. Now, Prince Harry and Meghan celebrated Princess Lilibet's 5th birthday, and people can't get enough. Meghan posted 2 new photos on Instagram to celebrate her daughter's 5th birthday. Our dream girl, she says. Happy 5th birthday, Lily. She captioned the carousel, which opened up with a shot of Prince Harry holding Lilibet while Meghan watched on with a wide smile. Happy birthday to the baby girl who broke the internet before she could even talk. And Vivian Wilson said, absolutely not. Elon Musk's daughter was in mid-interview when she walked off after being asked about her father. No explanation needed, no dramatic exit speech, just a clean walk-off that said everything that words couldn't. Now, the interaction happened with a reporter in an event at Ibiza in Spain. Vivian was seen she's been publicly vocal about her distance from Elon, even dropping Musk from her name legally and changed her gender in 2022. And she's repeatedly criticized her father, saying she wants no relationship with him. And on to the king of pop, Michael Jackson is still making history. MJ's 2014 posthumous track Chicago just made its Billboard Hot 100 debut, and in doing so, made him the first artist ever to chart across 6 decades. The song Chicago was originally recorded in 1999 under the title She Was Loving Me and was released on his second posthumous album Escape that was produced by Timbaland. Now, from the Jackson 5 all the way in the 60s to 2026, we are still vibing out to Michael Jackson. And Ashton, I have to say, that song Chicago is definitely one of my favorites on the Escape album, just in case you haven't heard it.
That record is like underrated. A Place with No Name. That's the track I'll stay ripping. So it's a good one. It's a good one. Roxy, I appreciate you. All right, I'm Ashton Singh, and this is Searched on ABC News Live, where your questions meet real answers. We'll leave you with what's trending right now on abcnews.com. You can scan that QR code right there to catch up. We'll catch you back here tomorrow. Stay safe.
America.
Good morning.
Hello. Wherever we are.
It's good to be home.
It feels like home.
When's the last time we dropped our things and went? Woke up somewhere that we've both never been. Growing up doesn't mean
Good morning. How are you?
At the start of the day, letting us into your home. Putting the good in your morning.
Man, it's good to be home.
GMA. It's an invitation to come together. Brighten your morning.
I'm George. How are you?
And the day ahead.
America's #1 news, ABC News, now streaming 24/7 on Disney+.
You shouldn't be trying to steal my house.
I live here. Police is coming out.
No, you don't.
Police is on the way.
And that's when the squatter standoff started.
Get out of my house.
I realized that we really had a squatter on our hands.
I literally lost my.
I have seen every scam in the book. I thought.
That's something that never, leaves you.
Get the out of our house.
Derek and Haley Huff. Tomorrow on GMA, their first interview together about Haley's near-death experience and how it shaped and strengthened their love, and their new daughter and getting back on the road dancing. Plus, Heidi Klum's here live on Good Morning America.
Reporting from the White House on the royal visit, I'm Mary Bruce. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Perche in Washington, and right now on ABC News Live reports, Republican divisions growing over the war with Iran, how President Trump is now slamming GOP defectors after a key vote challenging him. Plus, John Bolton expected to plead guilty, why sources say the former Trump advisor could face prison time. Then a terrifying scene at what was supposed to be a celebration, the deadly shooting outside a high school graduation in California. Also, the security scare at a major U.S. airport, how TSA agents say they caught a man with an explosive device. And in the nick of time, how Jalen Brunson helped lasso the Spurs in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Your ABC News Live Top 5 starts right now. Leading off our top 5 stories today, President Trump now accusing 4 GOP congressmen of grandstanding, calling their actions unpatriotic after they helped pass a war powers resolution on Iran. This as Hezbollah rejects a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Our Tom Sufi Burge has more from Jerusalem.
Yeah, Alex, there isn't a ceasefire again today in Lebanon. Israel striking in the south on multiple occasions against the Iranian proxy Hezbollah. Hezbollah, according to Israeli officials, firing into northern Israel on at least one occasion. And Hezbollah, yes, has rejected that kind of notional ceasefire deal between the Lebanese government and the Israeli government, effectively saying that while Israeli troops remain in southern Lebanon, Hezbollah will, it says, continue with its resistance, as it puts it. It remains to be seen whether all of that is enough to kind of scuttle an agreement, a notional agreement between the US and Iran to end the wider war. We've had a statement tonight from Iran's foreign minister. He is a more moderate voice, but he is at least talking up Iran's desire for peace and stability and their desire to rebuild relationships with some of the countries in the Gulf. So, we'll just have to wait and see what Iran's response is when we eventually get it to the latest US proposal. Alex?
All right, Tom, thank you. Number 2 now, sources telling ABC News that President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, is expected to plead guilty to mishandling classified documents. ABC News Washington Bureau Managing Editor Catherine Falders has more.
Alex, Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, is expected to plead guilty to 1 count of illegal retention of sensitive documents. That's according to our sources who have detailed plea negotiations that Bolton had entered into with the Department of Justice. Now, remember, last year he was charged with 18 counts by a grand jury in Maryland, 8 counts of unlawful transmission of national defense information, as well as 10 counts of unlawful retention of national defense information. He had pleaded not guilty to that, but we are told now that he will revise that plea, plead guilty to 1 of those counts, in addition to paying a $2.25 million fine. At least that's what we're told by our sources who have detailed these negotiations and what Bolton has agreed to here. The big thing that is on the table, and according to sources familiar with the deliberations, Bolton is hoping that he can convince the judge overseeing the case to give him probation. Of course, a 5-year prison sentence is on the table here, but once this goes back into court, it's at the discretion of the judge. Bolton will be able to make his arguments, the government theirs. The judge will then ultimately decide. Alex?
All right, Catherine, thank you. Number 3 now, a deadly shooting in California that authorities say left 3 victims wounded and an 18-year-old dead in the parking lot of a high school after a graduation ceremony. ABC's Trevor Ault has the latest.
Well, Alex, officials say those shots were fired in the parking lot just as this graduation ceremony was wrapping up in Fairfield, California. That's about halfway between Sacramento and San Francisco. It's not clear what led to those shots being fired, but investigators say on top of that 18-year-old being shot and killed, those 3 people that were wounded, they've revealed 2 of them were adults, a 25-year-old and a 20-year-old, but one of them was a child, just 11 years old. Now, at this point, authorities have not revealed anything about suspects. They said that they don't have anything to share about suspects at this time, but they did notably say that they don't believe that there is an active threat to the community. That could be an indication that they believe this was a targeted shooting. At this point, though, what led up to it or who may have pulled the trigger, that is still unknown. Authorities, though, say they are committed to carrying out interviews. They're already in the process of investigating, and they say that they are committed to solving this case. Alex?
All right, Trevor, thanks. Number 4 now, a troubling incident at a major U.S. airport. TSA agents say that they caught a man trying to pass through a checkpoint with an explosive device. Here's Rena Roy.
A security scare at Sacramento's airport could have had a much different outcome. Authorities say a suspect showed up at a TSA checkpoint Saturday around 9 p.m., wearing a scarf over his face and latex gloves. And officials say inside his carry-on bag was this M-type explosive device, a torch lighter, as well as knife scissors, more blades, and zip ties. According to the TSA, if the explosive device had detonated next to a window on a plane flying above 10,000 feet, it could have caused a loss of cabin pressure.
Sitting in that seat, it's going to cause significant damage to him. Possibly the passenger sitting next to him could crack or even blow out that window.
The suspect identified as 49-year-old Kamani Jones. The FBI saying he has a history of paranoia, allegedly complaining of being under surveillance. The Bureau says he allegedly called the FBI tip line 13 times this year to report, quote, nonsensical threats, including the day of the incident.
All right, Rena, thank you. And rounding out our top 5 today, Game 1 of the NBA Finals sends New York home. Well, actually, they're staying in San Antonio, but sends them back to the hotel with a win. The Knicks beating the San Antonio Spurs on their first Game 1 there in the NBA Finals. Knicks star Jalen Brunson overcoming a mid-game injury scare to explode for 30 points, 13 of which came in the final 8 minutes of the game. Meantime, Spurs center Victor Wembanyama scoring a team high of 26 points despite committing his postseason high, career highs in turnovers and missed shots. Wemby expressed confidence after the game, saying, quote, "I was bad tonight. I'm going to figure it out." And make sure to tune in tomorrow night as the Spurs look to even the series in Game 2 of the NBA Finals, starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. All right, in tonight's deep dive, more than 20% of Americans with private health insurance had their treatments delayed or denied last year. That's according to a new report from the Commonwealth Fund. In some cases, the report claims that denials even cause the health of patients to worsen due to a delay in care, and some patients even saying that they've avoided seeking care altogether. So joining me now to discuss this report is Dr. Sachin Jain, the president and CEO of SCAN Group and SCAN Health Plan. Doctor, thank you so much for your time today. I think this is really important, and it's a staggering report. So 1 in 5 adults with private health insurance reported that they were denied coverage of a doctor-recommended treatment last year. I'm curious, why is this happening?
I think it confirms what many of us experience in the healthcare system as patients and what many doctors experience in the course of prescribing care, which is that an insurance company can sometimes get in the way of the care that a patient is prescribed. I think the last thing a patient with cancer wants to hear is that the care that their doctor prescribes them is not going to be authorized. And I think that there's a lot of good work that's underway in the insurance industry right now to fix it. But we have to actually acknowledge that there's a problem before we actually fix it. And I would say, it starts with just recognizing that a lot of denials happen because people aren't necessarily submitting appropriate paperwork. And that's unfortunate. I think what we need to do is approve things more proactively. We need to use artificial intelligence to approve care, in real time, to address the real-time needs of patients and get into a world where insurance companies are partnering with patients to help them get their care as opposed to standing in the way of it.
Well, and let's talk about some of these broader financial consequences here. We're seeing 70% reporting higher household cost and more than 40% with accrued ongoing medical debt here.
Well, so many people lack what we call first dollar coverage these days, which is they have high deductibles. And this was a well-intentioned policy proposal that, many academics argued for 20, 30 years ago that we're now seeing in real time isn't working. When people actually have skin in the game, the idea was that if they actually were spending their own money, that they would make better healthcare decisions. But what we're seeing is that what's actually happening is that when people are spending their own money, they're oftentimes delaying care and they're actually getting sicker in the process. And I think we have to reimagine health insurance to provide more first dollar coverage to people so that they aren't delaying necessary care.
Well, and Doc, I think the other thing that kind of stood out to me with this report is just how many people didn't know that they could appeal after a first denial here.
I mean, and that's important too. But the reality is that we shouldn't put sick people in the position of appealing care. The last thing that you want to be doing if you're a sick person or going through a medical journey is arguing with an insurance company about whether you can actually get your care or not. That's a sign of system failure. My view is that we have to reimagine the health insurance industry altogether. We actually have to help patients navigate their healthcare journeys when they do get sick or when they are starting to experience symptoms so that we can partner with them to get them to the right places where they can actually get the right care. The model we have today, which is denying care on the other side of it, sometimes because it's unnecessary care or sometimes because it's the wrong care, is the wrong model. We should be working alongside patients the first moment that they actually know that they have an issue or challenge, and ensure that we are partners in actually enabling their care. And that's the kind of reform we need to start seeing from the insurance industry, and that's the kind of thing that we're trying to do at SCAN, the health plan that I lead in Southern California.
Okay. Dr. Jain, thank you so much for your time today.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Alex.
Well, and coming up after the break, a potential strike ahead of the World Cup. The demands for stadium workers that could sideline plans for major events. And also ahead, rehabbing with golf, how the game is helping some prison inmates to learn new skills for their return to society.
This is what you need to know.
We'll take you straight to where news is happening
And give you what you need to know all in under 10 minutes.
every day only on Disney+.
We'll take you to
Paris, Egypt, India, Doha, Ukraine.
Tokyo, Scotland, inside the White House in Capitol Hill, on the red carpet at the Oscars.
Wherever news is breaking,
Anywhere in the world,
we'll take you right there.
the top stories, the latest headlines, the viral moments, what everyone's talking about.
What you need to know, all in under 10 minutes.
New episodes streaming every day.
Only on Disney+.
Hey guys, I got a story I need to tell you about my life. Me and my little sister have been refusing to go to visits with my father, and now I'm having to be barricaded in my room to stay safe.
That is the start of the craziest journey of our life.
I stream 24/7.
Help us support Ty and Brent.
The order does let us use reasonable force.
Don't do anything to us, we're just scared.
Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy?
You ready to do this, BJ?
Good morning, Lieutenant. Do you have good news to share with me?
I'm surprised you're working with the police.
Well, you know, free coffee.
Got a high-profile murder on our hands. Do we have your attention now?
Catch me if you can. Our killer was also a sprinter.
See if we can track her down. Track her down?
You can do this all day?
I'll stop.
I think that's for the best.
Decker Investigations.
I have a job for you.
All episodes of RJ Decker are now streaming on Hulu.
Como se dice possible homicide?
It's entertainingly twisty.
Where would we be without Laurent P.I.?
Get hooked on this must-watch compelling hit.
That's straight gold, son.
It's being called one of the best new shows this year.
Repeat after me, okay? Everything is gonna be...
Try not to die tonight.
I will do my best.
RJ Decker. All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
Welcome back. Severe storms are threatening the plains. Possible large hail and damaging winds stretching from Nebraska to Minnesota. And meteorologist Kenton Jawecki is tracking it all for us. Hey, Kenton.
Alex, it is feeling like summer here as we head through the rest of the week and into the weekend. We're talking about actually fairly average temperatures in middle to upper 80s, fairly common this time of the year for Nashville. As you get, though, to Detroit, that's above average, certainly 90 on Friday. And in the Northeast, it is well above average. We're talking about multiple days in the 90s for places like Boston, New York City getting it on Friday and Saturday in the 90s there. Luckily, the humidity is going to be low, so you're not going to have a big heat index or a big feel-like temperature with this, so that's going to be helpful. Washington, D.C., you're getting close to the middle 90s even on Friday and Saturday. Sunday, you might be around 92. And then Raleigh at 98 degrees on Sunday. That's going to be a level 3 out of 4 heat risk for you folks. So make sure if you're outdoors for a prolonged amount of time, you're taking breaks in the shade and drinking plenty of fluids, of course, as well. As we head into next week, we are expecting a lot of this heat to continue through much of the country. For today's severe weather, though, Miles City, Montana, down to Valentine, Nebraska, over to Watertown, South Dakota, we're looking at damaging wind, large hail, and an isolated tornado, especially as you head towards the Chadron and Rapid City areas for that isolated tornado chance. Then on Friday, we're looking at Kearney, Nebraska, through Omaha, Nebraska, Lincoln, up to Fort Dodge and La Crosse, Wisconsin as well. It's for about the same amount of threats there. And then finally, it moves out of the plains. It's been there all week. But once we get through our Saturday, we're looking in the afternoon and evening hours for places like Toledo, Cleveland, Ohio, down to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Erie as well. Watch for some strong to severe storms there, mainly with damaging wind. Some of those storms will reach into the East Coast then, and that will cool us down on Sunday and especially into Monday, looking at highs just in the 70s in the Northeast on Monday, with then a warming trend through the rest of next week. Alex.
All right, Kenton, thank you. All right, time now for tonight's social story, and that, of course, is where we post 3 stories on our social media, and you decide what we cover. In today's picks, there's World Cup strike, rehabbing inmates with golf, and tick bite emergencies. And with more than half of the votes, it went towards SoFi Stadium workers voting on a strike ahead of the World Cup. ABC's Alex Stone has that story.
Hey, Alex, well, if they do go on strike, it would be a real mess. They've been working without a contract. 2,000 food and beverage workers at SoFi Stadium. This is cooks, servers, bartenders, concession workers, dishwashers. And they don't work for SoFi or for FIFA. They work for a company called Legends Global, and they want $30 an hour minimum wage. Now, Legends is allegedly offering them a 25-cent wage increase, and the workers are saying no, they want $30. That may sound like a lot, but here in California, gas, $6, $7 a gallon for regular unleaded. Fast food workers make $20 an hour now, minimum wage. They say they want $30 an hour minimum wage. They also don't like that FIFA is demanding their social security numbers and their fingerprints to do background checks for security going in. FIFA says it's got to do that for security of the stadium, and saying that this is between the union and the company that employs the workers. FIFA is saying this is not about them, but nobody wants concession workers not to be working and to be picketing out on the picket line. So they are still talking about a deal, but they are voting today and tomorrow. Alex?
All right. Alex Stone, hey, thank you so much. And take a look at this graphic there on the middle of your screen. You can scan that QR code now, and you can weigh in on tomorrow's social story, and you can give our Instagram a follow as well. Well, in the runner-up for our social story today, a Washington State prison is using golf to help inmates develop life skills. Cedar Creek Correction Center is giving lessons to men set to be released in the next few years. And these inmates say that learning to play golf is helping them to prepare for their lives after prison. ABC's Michael Strahan has a closer look.
I made a lot of mistakes in my past, and I'm hoping to learn from them and grow.
Michael Helmer just started taking golf lessons, but he says the game is teaching him much more than he imagined.
The fact that I'm constantly showing up, even though I'm not that good, I know I can take that same mentality into life out on the streets for when I run into problems or work-related problems.
Helmer is currently in prison, serving a 15-year sentence for shooting a man in the shoulder and pointing a gun at several others.
It was a mistake that I wish never would have happened. I definitely feel bad about it, you know. I ruined my life, my family's life, their life, their family's life.
He is one of a dozen men at Cedar Creek Correction Center, a low-security prison in Little Rock, Washington, that have been given the opportunity to play golf.
Initially, when it started, it was not about golf at all. It was about programming, idleness reduction, keeping people busy, bringing diverse groups together.
Tim Thrasher, the then superintendent, thought adding golf would be a good way to help rehabilitate and change these men.
For me, the rules of golf are the rules of life, the ethics, the etiquette, having to do things right when nobody's watching.
Nico Wiley was 20 years old when he was involved in a drive-by shooting. No one was hurt, and he is currently serving 15 years.
Growing up in an impoverished community, you kind of just gravitate towards the things that aren't necessarily not good for you, but you don't really know that at a young age.
But he says golf has helped him see new possibilities for his life.
I've always looked back on my crime and was just, thinking like, man, I can't believe I was doing that type of stuff,
These men will be released within the next few years, and the goal of this program is to prepare them to become better members of society and to set them up for a successful re-entry.
Why wouldn't you want to see some of these guys succeed upon release? And if golf is that avenue, why wouldn't you want to see them out there trying?
Nico and Michael say this program has changed their lives.
It allows you to be in your own mind at the right time. You can focus on your breathing.
It's definitely changed me. My anger had led me to where I'm at now, and being able to learn other ways to vent that anger and release it and not dwell on it through that program.
Our thanks to Michael for that report. And coming up here on ABC News Live, we take a look at President Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship by executive order. But first, Texas topples Texas Tech in Game 1 of the Women's College World Series. The Longhorns are looking to wrap up their second straight national championship tonight.
Get ready for the hottest competition of the summer. Love Island 2026.
We've got a squad of worldies and a bench full of bombshells, giving more fire pit drama, deeper post-matchup analysis, and spicier Villa action reviews. Ian?
Who's got zero game and who'll go all the way?
Love Island. It's all kicking off.
Love Island 2026.
Get this, people. Now we're streaming every weekend right to you.
With an all-new show, an all-new view, special for the weekends. Now you can catch The View 7 days a week.
I wonder if you can handle it.
It's The Weekend View.
The Weekend View.
It's The Weekend View. Streaming on ABC News Live, wherever you stream. Take a little time to enjoy The Weekend View.
See you on the weekend!
Now streaming Saturdays and Sundays on ABC News Live, wherever you stream.
America's #1 news, ABC News, now streaming 24/7 on Disney+.
Tonight, President Trump taking aim at Republicans pushing back against the war in Iran and tracking the multi-day severe storm risk, possible flash flooding, and soaring temperatures coming to the Northeast. World News Tonight with David Muir is the most watched newscast in America.
Friday nights at 9 on ABC. Mean true crime.
True murder mystery.
Shocking.
Sex, betrayal, lies.
A bombshell.
The greatest true crime stories.
2020. Friday nights at 9.
You want to know what I've been doing for the last 4 years? I was in a cult, man.
Who am I?
Nature Boy.
Nature Boy. Nature Boy.
You know this is not how life's supposed to be.
Where Nature Boy is, that's where I'll find my truth.
I am your Messiah.
Bow to me. What in the world is going on here?
Something was screaming at me, no, but I ignored it. There was brainwashing, mind manipulation. He was king, he was God.
SWAT team. Damn, don't shoot God.
He had to be destroyed.
Nothing dies in nature.
All right, the Texas Longhorns are looking to clinch their second straight national title tonight in the Women's College World Series after dominating Texas Tech in Game 1, 7-3, the final score there. It is a rematch of last year's finals, and the team that wins Game 1 has gone on to win it all 80% of the time since the series went to a 3-game format in 2005. So joining me now to preview tonight's Game 2 is ESPN softball analyst and Hall of Famer Jessica Mendoza. Jessica, so good to see you today. And I got to start with this because we got two-time National Pitcher of the Year, Nyjah Kennedy, is expected to start tonight for Texas Tech. So how does she match up against this Longhorn team?
She'll overpower you with a rise ball. I mean, if you watch Nyjah Kennedy, I mean, it's the stuff. And what sets softball apart from baseball is the fact that we've got pitches that go up in the zone with velocity that you just don't see in baseball. It's impossible. So the fact that she's coming from underneath with a rise ball that's better than any rise ball we've seen in the game. Why? Because it's 70 plus miles an hour. That's almost 98, equivalent to MLB with spin. Coming up at these hitters, she's been an absolute dominant, and you're right. There's a reason why she's two-time Player of the Year because of how dominant she's been.
Yeah, that's some nasty stuff there. But I want to talk about Katie Stewart for a second because she hit 2 home runs last night for Texas. She's hit a homer in each of her last 4 games here. And that is the first time this has ever happened in the Women's College World Series. So what's working so well for her at the plate?
Obviously, she's a beast. But you watch her in the batter's box, and I think what's so unique is she gets down in her legs. And it's almost like you and I going and trying to do a wall squat, like literally testing out the quads. Like she's literally so strong with her lower half that if you make a mistake, it's not that she's just hitting 4 consecutive games with a home run. These are 250, 280, 290. We've never seen bombs like